Welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to talk about the if statement. I want to do through 4 different videos about the if statement. So we'll start with a really basic look at it today. And then as I do the others, we'll add some extra logic pieces to it, some nesting and stuff like that, so that we get 4 bite-sized chunks to show some of the versatility of this logic statement that you can run in Excel. So this data right here that I'm looking at is from the EPA, looking at 2015 model year cars. You can go download this thing off their website. I've deleted some of the columns just to make it a little more manageable. But we have about 4,000 cars here, and if, for instance, I hit control right here, we go over to the side, we can look at like miles per gallon or something, and we can use an if statement to find out how many of those cars are above a certain cutoff point. There's lots of ways to go about doing what I'm going to do right now with the if statement, but like I said, once we get some more tools to build into the if, we can do some more specialized things with it. But like what I'm going to do right now, you could do at least, through sorting. You could do it with pivot tables and other stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily the best way, but once you learn this structure, the if statement, we add a couple things, you'll have a lot more ability to use this to do interesting things. So the if statement looks like this. I'm going to hit equals. I'm going to say if, and then hit either tab or shift 9, get that parenthesis in there. And now it's going to ask me for 3 things. It's going to say logical test, and then it's going to say value if true, value if false. You can have it output whatever you want, if it's true or false, but first you have to tell it what it's looking for. So in this case, let's say we look for cars with 30 miles per gallon. So I'm going to say is AP2 greater than 30 miles per gallon. If you want it 30 included in there, in this case you could make it greater than 29.9, or you could make it greater than, and you can add a little equal sign in there, greater than or equal to 30. I tend to prefer typing in 29.9 for various reasons, but you can put the little equal in there too if you want to cut things off that way. But that's the logical test, and we'll talk about how to do more in-depth logical tests later to cut ranges and other things in another video. I'm going to hit comma. So that's my first argument. The second argument is value if true now, and so I'm going to generally have it value if true of 1, and comma value if true of false of 0. I like that binary look. We'll talk about with nesting and stuff when we don't have binaries what to do, but this is my preference. And so I'm going to close that, I'm going to hit enter, and I'll show you why it's my preference here in a second. But I get a 0 because this car is not above 30. The next one is, so if I drag that down, this one will be a 1. So I get 0s and 1s. If you prefer like T and F for true and false, you can put those too, but if you're going to do text, you'll see like true, I can type false. You'll see that it doesn't like that as much. Oh, it's okay with that. If you just do T and F, I guess they like true and false because they're used to that, but if you put like T and F, it doesn't like that. So if it doesn't like something you're trying to output, especially if it's text, all you have to do is put commas around it, or quotes around the T and the F, and it'll output it as text. So anything you want really will output. Generally, like I said, I just stick to 1s and 0s, and 1s and 0s are better than text in my opinion, mostly because it allows us the ability to sum the 1s. So if I just double click our formula down, so now it should have, I can go up to this one, control shift down all the way down to 4212, and you'll see it'll sum down here and show 2,184 of those cars are at or above 30 miles per gallon. So that's nice. If you want to know how many are not, you can take 4211 minus that number, or you can change it to 0, 1, or you can flip this from a greater than to a less than, and all those things will do, to a less than 30, and all those things would do that for you. But that's the basic structure of the if. You tell it what am I looking for, comma, what to tell me if it's true, what to tell me if it's comma, what to tell me if it's false. Let's take another look at it. You can't. This isn't the only thing you can do it. This is just marking out particular things. Sometimes you're looking for something over a stretch. So for instance, if we have a simple capital budgeting model like in this other tab, I can do something like a simple payback. It's not something I would recommend decision making on because paybacks are kind of useless for making great decisions, but it is something a lot of people calculate. It's simple, and it'll show you another way to use this in a basic way. And so the idea is, we're going to put 34,287 into this project in the first year and a half, it looks like, and then we want to see how long it takes to pay back. And so we'll talk about doing that within an if structure. So equals if here in C17. The logical test is going to be sum. So we're going to test to see if the sum of this row, and I'm going to have to lock that B15 reference. So if the sum of this row, let me relock that. B15 and then C15. So if the sum of this row is greater than 0, then we have made enough cash to pay back the initial cash that we put in. And so you see, if you lock the first reference and not the second, as you drag it across, this reference will move. This will continue to be your starting point. And so the next one will be 15 B, C, and D in 15, then B, C, D, E, and so it'll keep adding in that progression. But that's my logical test, comma 1, comma 0, just like before. And you'll see when we drag this over that we'll have 1s here through here. In another video, after we add a couple things, we'll be able to do this a little better to where this will be the only one where something will show up, these will go away, these extra ones, and actually we can set it up to, instead of giving us a 1 or a 0, we can put a formula in here and say when it pays back, calculate the actual payback period by adding, this cell 6, so it'll take 6 years, and then to add to that a little a ratio of what was left to pay off, basically, and compared to the amount we actually made that year. Okay, so we need a couple more tools before we can do something quite that complicated. But pretty simple little look to this, and of course, then I can drag this down and say discounted payback. So instead of using this cash flow line, we can use the discounted cash flow line in 16 by just changing B15, the locked B15 to B16, and redragging, and we'll see that the payback, instead of coming in year 7, will come in year 9. Okay, so that's another thing we can track over time, something until an event finally happens, and say, okay, there's where it happens. Okay. Again, there's lots and lots and lots of uses for this if statement. What we'll do next time is we'll talk about mixing if, and in this logical part using ands and ors, things like that, other logical modifiers, so that we can search for multiple things at a time. We can also talk about running multiple ifs in separate columns to do this, so there's a lot of ways. And then we'll add nesting, and then if we want, we can also use self-referencing strings, so we can have the if statements reference back as we drag across to, or reference up as we drag down. So there's lots of fun things we can do with this once we get a little further in, but that's the basic idea. One logical statement, comma 1, comma 0, and we'll do a little more than comma 1, comma 0 next time. Okay? I'll see you in the next video.